All right, team. Very good morning. Let me just double check. Let's allow Frank to join. Morning, Boris, a frequent
Morning,
regular.
morning. Oh,
Um,
yeah, sure thing.
thanks for joining. Oops, where's the screen gone? Sorry, guys. Can you see my? No, you can't. Just a second. Okay, team. I hope you can all see the screen. Just for the newer ones here, this call is recorded, so if you're not comfortable with that, then here's your chance to leave. Nevertheless, very good morning to you all. I hope you're well. In terms of just a quick conversation Boris and I had yesterday for anyone listening later, or perhaps you guys are new. Basically, Boris and I were just discussing yesterday at the fact that the DXY, really, to be honest, that's our only friend. But with that said, it can still be one of those types of friends where you can't always trust it, but it can give you a good indication of what we have to play with. So with that said, I'll just head over to the DXY now for me to explain just briefly what I mean. It's not going to be a long-winded session. I will get to the business pretty quickly. However, last weekly candle, we closed just below that weekly 50 MA. So, of course, we're looking to reject that weekly 50 MA, top right-hand chart, looking to reject that weekly order block to the downside. Last week, we had a bit of a problem because we had opened there. So, as a result of opening at that weekly 50 MA, we were pretty much in no man's land. We didn't know whether price was going to reject it straight away to the downside or was price going to push slightly above it. And as you can see by last week's previous candle, we pushed above that weekly 50 MA only to just about close, well, on it last week. So the better news is, regardless of if we closed above or below it, we didn't close at it. Therefore, we have room to play with to the upside before we have a potential rejection down from that weekly 50 MA, or regardless, we have room to the most restrictive thing against us in terms of DXY looking towards the upside. In terms of the higher time frame analysis, it's difficult to say now with the DXY because we were, well, I was, if I paint this picture just briefly, I was looking at that as the high, broken up previous highs of the weeks in terms of months we're looking. So this is a very new, recent high in the market. Price pulled back for a higher low, looking to make that higher high. But as a result of that push to the downside, we've now trended into a higher time frame order block that we are ordinarily looking for price to short out of. Nevertheless, lower time frame, we're looking at that daily picture. We are in a bit of a range. However, what I've come to the charts this morning to say, well, if I'm incorrect and price isn't in the range, which to be honest, I do believe it is, but it's a new week. So therefore, I could be wrong in terms of my previous analysis. What I'm looking to do is identify some points of interest on that DXY, starting really with the 4 hour, because I believe that the DXY respects the 4 hour order blocks more so than the refined area. The refined area just, excuse me, gives us a better chance rather to have a look at the crosspairs when we're about to execute a position. For example, yesterday I took EU shorts, and that was based on the fact that price had returned back to this area, that we had a breakup, pullback, just in basic formation of price action. We made a low, looking for price to pull back up for that lower low continuation after a lower high. Wasn't to be, made a higher high, pull back, higher low for that push, and there was the lovely entry for the short on EU. I didn't take profits on EU. That stopped me out break even, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Looking to re-enter that today. So that's really the skin and the bones, I should say, first and foremost with the DXY. So hopefully looking to anticipate more bullish pressure coming up the DXY. We're above that 4 hour 50 MA, older 4 hour order block. If I put that on all the charts for you to have a look, here is where we are. So looking to at least hold this area in its entirety, even if we don't sort of hold these levels of order blocks on the 15-minute time frame. But I believe as a result of newer price action, we can see that the areas that we can just eyeball in the market are certainly looking to hold. So again, I'll be looking to identify this area. Let me refine that slightly more. That area, regardless of there being order block or not, for me, that is a good area in terms of a point of interest where price can look to gravitate towards. So that's what I'm working with at the moment. Then in the intricacies, looking for a price to roll back down which would give us that DXY weakness in immediately, giving us a push on the crosspairs, i.e., a pullback for us to then take advantage of that longer term move. So straight into it, that's EU. So taking out break even EU, the position was somewhere around here yesterday. Good move in the market, could have closed it, but I figured, well, it hasn't reached targets, we'll let that roll on. Lower time frames, we'll start from the daily. We got room towards the upside. So with that said, I could definitely be wrong. Room towards the upside means this area here. If the DXY is just going to remain weak, then of course EU is going to, in my opinion, push slightly higher to this 4 hour order block, which is just higher into our higher time frame order block, weekly order block, looking to reject that to the downside. So I'm fully prepared that any position I take at the moment, I could well be wrong. And it's just as simple as that, to be quite honest, team. So that's 4 hour order block. It's an older order block. So we're looking to understand whether price action is going to, well, how price action looks coming out of that. The 4 hour, it's difficult to take the picture from the 4 hour. You can just about make it out here in terms of a low created lower high for that lower low continuation. And then when we go to the 15-minute time frame, really what we're most concerned about, we're trying to understand those areas in the market, get the pullbacks to, and then take the position from. So this order block, I liked it this morning. I still like it now. Prices are still respecting it. Hopefully then by the time London opens. So as a result of price actually tapping into this now, it's not something that I'll be able to trade from immediately. It's very old at the moment. Well, it's not very old, but it's just older at the moment. I'd much prefer a brand new order block to look to trade from. With that said, let me just double check whether I'd be aggressive in these areas, because there is no order blocks up at these highs, but this is certainly a session high. So you can understand why price may want to gravitate towards those session highs. Even to the left here, that key structure point before then looking for the turnaround. However, as we're seeing prices starting to develop, my understanding is after this lower high, hoping then that we'll get that lower low continuation. So we've got a couple of ways to look to take this today. Myself, I'm seeing this as a little bit of a structure point in the market. That's me being incredibly aggressive. If I get a break or structure of that area, pull back into an area of interest, hopefully by way of 15-minute order block. If there's not an order block there, I'll need to wait for a bearish engulfing candle to create me one. Or with that said, if price then comes straight up into this area, again, 15-minute bearish engulfing candle, much like so. Oops. Like this for good example, that will then allow me to have that 15-minute order block. Then I'll look for price to, of course, return back to the order block or imbalance of the candle. Either way, for me to take that short position, and that would just align nicely with the DXY. So we'll see what we're getting at the moment. When London opens, hopefully that will push that liquidity into the market. So that's what I'm looking for on the EU. I'm not interested in longs at all. I'm fully focused on the shorts. We've got this market gap still there as a bit of confluence for reasons why price may want to gravitate towards these lows. Hence why I didn't close my trade out yesterday, just waiting to see if price is going to come all the way back down here. And if the DXY is going to be bullish, like it's showing on UJ, then we should have that follow through and continuation for a nice reward short on any of the cross pairs. So that's EU for today. GCAD. Okay, I like GCAD. Feels like I've been trying to take GCAD for weeks, and we see the position, but those pullbacks are just not happening. But with that said, just remain disciplined with the approach. I mean, looking at UJ this morning, I just thought, well, 2 weeks ago, I should have just pressed buy and just leave it. And then that would have been probably the best port of call. Just leave it and then see if it will get back to these highs. But again, that's not strategic trading. That's just me looking at the charts and thinking, oh goodness, is it going to pull back? Nevertheless, back to GCAD. Here we are. So higher time frame, we're in that daily order block looking for price to fall short from it. Why I like that is the daily time frame paints a nice picture. We made a high here, expecting a higher low for a higher high continuation. We didn't get the higher high as we've come into a daily order block. And in fact, what I believe we have now is a lower low in the market. Once we've got that lower low, we're of course expecting the lower high for the lower low continuation. So that's my thought process on GCAD. Of course, long term there on GCAD, I'm not looking to trade the lower low leg because I recognize on the way down, I'm probably going to run into some traffic. And what that traffic would be at the moment is going to be the 4 hour 50 EMA. So wishful thinking to take it all the way down to the these levels, but I'm not a long-term trader in terms of holding my position. So what do we have to work with? I don't have any 4 hour order. Well, I didn't put any 4 hour order blocks in the market at the moment, but what I can do is I can see one just here. Therefore, let's put it on the market and see if we can manipulate that um, when we begin to refine our areas down. So that's a 4 hour order block that at the moment is the first order block that has caused this move. Now, we can't be blindsided that on the 4 hour, this is a very extended move, and there's no way for me to really understand price action on this leg in terms of higher highs and higher lows. So technically, here is a high in the market, and at any point in time could be that higher low for that higher high continuation. However, once you refer back to the daily time frame where we start our top-down analysis, we need to be mindful actually that any pullback is more than likely going to be this leg extension. So I'm pretty confident on the GCAD short, I must admit. And taking the longs just isn't something I'm looking at just at the moment, because if I put a 4 hour order block in here, then the question is, well, Charles, why not put a 4 hour order block in there and a 4 hour order block anywhere else, to be quite honest. Of course, in this area, we'll use price action to give us the clues, because there is always a reason. So why are we holding up in this area? So I'll put that on all the time frames. But again, I'm very much so sell bias. So I would not be looking for a long position. And so with that said, this 4 hour order block is just here on the 15. And straight away, what we have is price on the 15 minute trumping it, which aligns better with the higher time frame analysis. So what I'll be doing is getting rid of that, focusing on my bias that I've taken from the daily time frame and seeing how that makes sense. So again, basic price action and structure, lower lows and lower highs, as I've said, would simply just waiting for those pullbacks to execute, in my opinion, what would be an aggressive sell. Even from this high risk area, I'm definitely prepared to take an opportunity to short GCAD. Just a second, team. Where are we? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd definitely be looking to take an aggressive short. So what I mean by that is by the time price gets to that area, perhaps I'll just see how price is coming up to that 15 minute point of interest on the 1 minute time frame. I'll wait for a 1 minute break of structure, pull back into that 1 minute imbalance and look for the short right away. So long as I can cover areas in the market that I'm looking to cover, i.e. these highs just here, I'll be quite happy with a short like that, to be quite honest. Take that down to the 4 hour 50 MA and look at that already for a 1 to 5. So that is the type of opportunity I'm willing to risk on when looking at taking an aggressive position when the risk to reward ratio is very much so in favor. So hopefully price is going to come a lot higher into that 15 minute order block, respect it, 1 minute break of structure, pullback, imbalance short. So that's what I'm looking at GCAD. And actually, I'll be willing to do the same at this area as well. I think GCAD, once you refer to that higher time frame analysis, looking to come out of that higher time frame daily order block, I think there's all the reason to short it as a result of price not actually tapping into any of those hold up areas, i.e. EMA. So of course, price is above those EMAs, but we want to trade back down to them in order to get the best from our position. And then of course, once we start running into those traffic areas, we'll be well into profit and just close those positions out anyway. So that's what I have for GCAD at the moment. GJ. Yeah, we can go through GJ. Why not? So GJ at the moment, really how I'm looking at GJ. How did I see GJ? So we'll start from the daily. There's not too much on the weekly. We've just got that wick imbalance to the lows. Hence why I'm having to build the picture up to short first and foremost, because I don't have any higher time frame points of interest to start refining. So we're at that wick imbalance. That's fair to say. On the daily time frame, of course, we've been printing bullish for the last couple of days. That's fine. Still no order blocks to play with to the left-hand side on GJ on the daily time frame, looking for the short position. So therefore, would I be inclined to put a daily order block here to look for a long? Let's see where that comes out on the crosshairs. Just a moment, team. It's just something that I've seen only now. Let's see where this comes out at. Okay, we'll play with it for now. Where is that? Okay, not too bad at all because my initial thought process is I would be inclined to take a short position. Now, I'll let you guys know why because on the daily time, excuse me, on the 4 hour time frame, I'm seeing potentially this, be it a bit of a 4 hour range. Now, the daily time frame doesn't really support that as a result of price actually breaking out of the range. But because how I know how ranges work. For me, I would want to see a clear break out of that range, a real positive break out of the range, and then a pull back into it for me to then expect a continuation to the upside. As a result of not really having a clean break out of the range, my thought process is that this could be a half decent area to sell down to. And now the areas that I'd be looking to sell down to, of course, those traffic areas, that for me would be the 4 hour 50 MA. Now we've just put this daily order block in, and that refines quite nicely with the daily 50 MA anyway. So as we start to refine that daily order block down through the 4 and the 15, I think we'd still have quite good range if we were to look to take a short position. Now, the short position, I must admit, is only based on my thought process of price breaking out and breaking back into that range and then waiting for structure to confirm the thought process. So I don't want to jump in this prematurely because of course this price action here is indicating bullish strength. And that bullish strength you can see here on the 15-minute time frame, a clear structure point. Here is where we made the most recent high. Therefore, here is the higher low. Therefore, I think it's quite important to take a position that you're not fully certain about. Wait for that break of structure first of all, i.e., most recent higher low, then pull back into this area of interest and then look for the short. Unfortunately, if price comes straight back up to this area, I will skip GJ because I just know that I could be wrong here. Well, I could be wrong all of the time, but if you look at the difference between my confidence for taking quite an aggressive short on GCAD, because I have all of that higher time from analysis, structures already broken to the left-hand side, price is already developing. The difference here on GJ is that price hasn't broken structure points yet. We're not trading from a higher time frame point of interest. That's the difference, right? So if anyone would like to know when and why I would go aggressive and when I would not, here is a prime example. When I just have a little bit too much doubt, not so much in myself, but what price action is doing, a little bit too many questions. However, if I got that break pullback, then absolutely, I don't see a reason why not just short GJ. But as you can see by my lack of alerts, it's not sort of one of my favorites. So I'll put a GJ alert just here, price crossing down. I'll have an alert price crossing up just to see what happens. But even if price comes up to this area, gives me a bearish engulfing candle, allows me to short again, I wouldn't be looking to short because what that could be is price just stepping up slightly and then off we go to those highs of a pointless loss. I'd rather miss the move of price actually coming up in the area, then breaking structure, and then I'll just sit back and wait for price to return. Simple as that. If it doesn't, that's fair enough. So that's GJ at the moment. In terms of the long, so as a result of another a reason what fuels my reason to short is I wouldn't long GJ until I was down at least this area, the area that most recently gave us that push. So here is a structure point, but I can't find a reason to take an immediate long from this area just yet. Again, higher time frame analysis. Actually, we've got a bit of an imbalance there. Let's have a look on the 15. Okay, so it's nothing immediate because there isn't a 15-minute order block that I can look to play with. But if you see my crosshair, when I come down to this area, it's to the bottom right-hand chart. That's the daily time frame. That is the start of the daily imbalance that allowed us actually to select that order block. So with that said, I fully expect price to come down lower anyway. Once you refine that daily order block down, we're right at the lows here at this 15-minute order block. So in my opinion, that would be the best area to trade from in terms of the long. Therefore, if I get a break of structure pullback, that's why I'd be looking for the short. So I think either way, there's decent analysis on there for a trade if it happens. Nevertheless, if we break straight back up, then I'd be looking to identify some of these areas to look for that long continuation. Absolutely. So either way, break short, pull back short. break up to the highs. And then, of course, I'll look to identify an area in the market around here to see if we can then look to get that continuation towards the upside. So that's what I've got for GJ at the moment, guys and girls. AUD US dollar. Let's rock it through this because this is a pair that I really want to trade again. Well, trade today. Um, let's see what we got here. Good morning, good morning. Welcome into the chat. You've missed a couple of pairs, but nevertheless, you'll be able to grab onto these ones. So AD US dollar. Boris and I, he knows this one inside out. We've been discussing it probably for the last 3 months together. Weekly order block, of course, looking for a price to come out of that order block, reject that order block to the downside. We've got ample room in terms of areas that we'd be looking to trade down into. The first hurdle would be this daily 50 EMA. So we've definitely got room to the downside. Hence why as soon as I get a pullback, I will be pulling the trigger on AU immediately today. If not be I won't make the call in terms of a sell limit, but I will definitely, as you can see, the alert is below the order block. So as soon as that alert goes off, I will be on MT5 and on MT4 to see whether or not I'll be looking to take an instant execution as soon as price gets in there. So I'll see how price reacts up at those highs. Now let me explain the reason for that level of thought process. So apologies, Boris, you've heard this over and over again, but we've got this bullish structure point here. We've broken that structure point down to the lows. We did break that daily 50 EMA as well. However, in terms of all basic price action, after a low is created, what are we expecting? A lower high for what? A lower low continuation. Of course, the best case scenario would be we'd already have or be working with a daily candle that has already, or the previous daily candle closed below hit this area here, and we'd be looking for price to pull back up into those highs for the continuation short. However, we don't have that. Therefore, our target, it will have to remain that daily 50 EMA. Nevertheless, once we start going over to the 4 hour time frame, I think that's where it gets nice and juicy. So we have this 4 hour order block. I agree, it's very old, it's been mitigated over and over again. We're even getting into the point of potentially just having the liquidity grab to those highs before them price move to the downside. However, the only way to safeguard against that then would be the 15-minute time frame looking to develop. So what I have here is a low created in the market. Of course, when price comes back up to the area that caused the most recent low, I'm expecting a move out of that area to create a lower low, if not allow me a reaction to at least get to break even. So that's what my thought process is when we go to the 15-minute time frame. I want to see if price has developed on that 15-minute time frame, and do I have reason to look for a short already? It's quite difficult as a result of the gap. We're using that structure point here, but for me, at some point, you're going to have to pull the trigger and accept that you just can be wrong. Now, for me, I'm pretty satisfied that I'll be looking to take this as soon as it comes back. The reason why is what we can see quite clearly is higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, meaning that here is the most recent higher low. As soon as price breaks this area, we've created, in my opinion, what is the first low in the market, just like on the higher time frames. So of course, we've come back. Here's the low, looking for the pullback for that lower high for the lower low continuation. I think that setup is pretty much already textbook ready for me. So therefore, I can take this opportunity up at the highs as and well as I wish. Now, the reason for being quite aggressive is I don't mind being wrong here. Therefore, I can have my stop loss slightly higher, maximum of 20 pips for me really on AU. But I mean, is it going to be a little bit of overkill considering what the reward is? What I'd like to do is cover that previous weekly high if I'm going to take it very, very aggressively. However, what I'll probably then do is see if I can identify a 1 minute break of structure, or at least just have, I'll definitely be on the 1 minute time frame. There's no reason, in my opinion, for me to be sat here on the 15-minute time frame now as a result of having that break of structure from that area. I'm happy for that to come back and take what I would class as pretty much an immediate short. And that's just going to be based on the fact that I think that DXY now, as it starts to move, okay, so well, DXY and AU, let's not really get into that. Let's use EU as a better example. So EU is pushing short, so we should expect AU really to push short as well. So we can see what's going on there. DXY, is that pushing bullish? Well, as you can see, the very little movement on the DXY to the upside is causing a tremendous looking melt on AU. So just use that DXY as a good guide, especially when it starts to react from those 15-minute points of interest, refine within the 4 hour if it's available, and then that's a really good help in hand. So that's AU. As you can see, alerts there, alerts for these lows that are crossing boss. So that's very much so ready for me in terms of a short. I'll let you guys know as and when I'm looking to take that. GU should be much of the same, to be honest, in line with EU and AU. Let's see if there's a difference. So a higher time frame from the weekly, we won't really get into that. I think it really starts to kick off from the daily time frame. As you can see, price is reacting from this daily order block just to the left there, and that's as a result of price making this nice bearish move down, left us with an order block. Price then came back in, and I'm happy to now see and say that yesterday's daily candle finally closed and broke below that daily 50 MA. Good news. We're expecting this move away, pull back into that daily 50 MA, hopefully slightly above it, which will bring us into these areas here. And then we'll be looking to reject that daily 50 MA to the day. The only thing about that is the 4 hour. Well, regardless, even of what the 4 hours looking like now, by the time price gets up there, we will have range back down to that 4 hour 50 MA, even in the worst case scenario. What I mean by that is, let's say this 4 hour candle closes above that 4 hour 50 EMA as price starts to print its way back up to our point of interest. Of course, now our target, or what is against us, is this 4 hour 50 MA back up in the opposite direction. But with that said, if price starts to push up higher and higher, i.e., even to this better area, you'll just see that we have better range moving back down to the downside, which would be that 4 hour 50 MA. So 50 pips south from that area. And then if we go from the equilibrium there, that's more than enough to be looking to get break even. If not with a 10 pip stop loss, you'd be looking at a nice 1 to 3 just about from that area anyway. So it's all looking good in my opinion for continued GU shorts. Now we want to start building the bias up for reasons why based on the 4 hour. The 4 hour for me, it's a bit tricky. The 4 hour definitely, in my opinion, looks slightly more bullish than bearish. I must admit, we've got the high in the market just here, created that higher low, potential higher high continuation, but then we're referring back to the fact we're trading short out of a higher time frame order block. However, we want to be a little bit careful, in my opinion, and how to be careful is just to safeguard with what's going on the trend. So we can say we have had a break of structure here. At some point, we're going to have to call this a break of structure to the left regardless of we're not actually able to see these key structure points on to the left area. This move had to have broken structure of some sort. Therefore, what I have to then do is wait for price to pull back up into these highs before taking a short position. Again, like AU, I would be more aggressive on AU because I feel like we just have a lot more on side. But even that 4 hour 50 minute, it's already on side as a result of that previous candle close below the area. So I like AU a lot. So compare what I'm trying to do is to compare the two and try to find reasons why I'd be aggressive on GU. At the moment, I don't see a reason to be aggressive on GU because actually I much prefer this area to be aggressive on. And this area, although it looks good, let's draw the structure out. So I'm just looking at basics. So lower low, lower high, lower low, pull back up, lower high, lower low continuation. It's fair to say, I mean, there's very little splitting the two, but I just like how we've got that structure break here, clear structure break on AU. Am I talking rubbish? Well, I can't go aggressive on both. That's my get out of jail card. So if I'm going to be aggressive on one, it is going to be AU for me, and that is going to be the fact that in that case, I know I'm trading out of this higher time frame order block. So I have that bias already that I'm trading from a point of interest on the weekly that I am looking only to short from. So here is now my short opportunity. So for me personally, the way I see that say it is I must now take that opportunity and short immediately. So that's what I'm looking at the moment for GU, sorry. US dollar CAD, a bit of a boring one to be honest, team. US dollar CAD, I'm not really interested in shorts. I think to short this type of price action would be a bit of suicide, recognizing as well that we are kind of long-term bullish on the DXY. I don't really see a reason to look for shorts on US dollar CAD. So how would I be looking to play that? It's a bit boring, to be honest. It's just going to have to be a pullback. I need price to pull back to an area. At the moment, we're not. I'll leave it zoomed out so you can see what price is capable of doing. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, failed to make a high, excuse me, higher low, failed to make a higher high, no lower low, and then we just got this at the moment. So therefore, I can't really, well, I can work with that, but there's no reason to do so if you would understand. We have clear trading pairs that allow us to speculate with price action trending in its most basic format. So why get involved in this kind of opportunity? For me, it's clear highs and lows. We've got a best long position down at this area. Of course, that is a hell of a way below, but it is what it is. That is on the 4 hour. If you look to the bottom left, that's where the move created. So that's the higher high or the high. Here could well be the higher low for that higher high continuation. Of course, I can completely see where price could look to react probably sooner rather than later. But in terms of the shorts, that's definitely just not something that I'm going to be getting involved in. I'll be looking at long opportunities only. So my only alert, to be honest, is a break up to the highs where I'll be looking for price particularly to have that break out of the area, pull back into here. Let's see then as a result of the break if we can identify an order block to those lows, look for some confirmation before then taking that higher for that higher high in line with that DXY strength. Or if we then get a pullback out of this area up into those highs, I wouldn't be looking for the short back down, I must admit. If price gets there, fine, I'll look for the long, but I won't be the person adding liquidity to that short. I'll just be quite happy. This is just for now, I must say, but I'll be quite happy to wait for price to get to that area before the long. And the other bit of added confidence, top right hand chart, weekly time frame, you can already see why we would have room to the upside. If this is the weekly order block up at those highs, we have all of this space, all of this trading area here to reach that higher time frame weekly order block before looking for the rejection out. So definitely the long position is the most higher probable position. And if you have a look at how this most recent weekly candle closed above that weekly 50 MA, that's everything you need to know. So essentially, I'm looking for price now to push up, potentially pull back down into that weekly 50 MA, find liquidity. Hopefully, we drop even as low as here. But to be honest, I foresee we're only going to go to the imbalance of last week's candle before then making that move back to the highs on UCAD. So it's unfortunate for UCAD not really able to take a long position based on technical analysis, unless you just press buy with no stop loss. Then down here you would have been fantastically in profit. But nevertheless, waiting for those pullbacks, and then I'll take a long position. So that's all I'm looking at, to be honest, guys. UJ, again, UJ, as I said to the start of this call, just like UCAD, sometimes you look at the chart and you think, goodness, I could see where price is going. Look at the daily time frame. Again, Boris and I, we've been looking at price when it was all the way up here. Price made the drop. We say, okay, there's that 600 pip move that definitely would be looking to get in on, and just not a single pullback that looked worth trading. That's me zoomed out on the 15. You can see that the only way price pulled back, it pulled back to a tremendously large 15-minute order block. No, nothing, just nothing was pulling back. It's unfortunate. Therefore, we're just going to have to wait for these highs, potentially for a short. Let's see if the DXY weakness would come out of the market as a result of the UJ getting up to these highs. Alternatively, what I would consider is exactly the same on US dollar CAD. Looking to the 15-minute time frame, if we get a breakout and a pullback, then of course I'll be willing to take it. But I just don't think, as a result of performance at the moment, I don't see it pulling back. So even the 4 hour time frame, we've broken out of the range. If I am wrong, and we have now broken out of that range, I would expect price to then want to pull back into that range after now making that first high from this price action. You've made the high, make the higher low for the higher high continuation. And now we're just starting the move, but I'm not willing to take a position like that. I need price to pull back properly, or if it doesn't pull back properly, continue to break its own structure, i.e., so here's a high, higher low, make me a new higher high for me then to take a position from here when it comes back. Because at the moment, I feel that, okay, although we've broken that range, Have we broken the range? Because this is only down to my drawing. If I was to amend the range to those highs based on that wick, then you can see quite clearly we are still in the range. It's all down to illustration. However, I've placed it like so, just to give myself a clue that, okay, that's fair enough, Charles. You've seen it one way. What about if you're incorrect and actually price is trending in another direction? Well, the only way that I'll risk that is by price doing this, then break the high, then pull back into an area of interest, and I'll take the continuation, as pretty much we were planning to do for the whole of the duration since UJ was down here, to be quite honest, waiting for price to make the move, pull back and take the long. So it is what it is at this stage. That's what we have to work with. But definitely good price action to work with today. Let's just see how the DXY is going to react from these areas. Don't get too bogged down on these order blocks. I believe that the DXY is respecting the 4 hour order blocks more intensively than the 15. But when you do see the reaction from it like so, the best thing, you head straight to your crosspair and then look at EU. Perfectly looking for that break, pullback, and a short, if not an immediate short. Now we're up in those high areas, so waiting for confirmation on that. GCAD looking for that price to pull back for the short. Happy with that. GJ, where were we on GJ? A lot of illustrations on GJ, but essentially looking for price to push up to those highs. Give me my entry criteria, and then I'll have that potential only once we have that break of structure to this downside here, first of all. And then AU, I would absolutely love for AU to come back. That would be an immediate short for me, with no hesitation whatsoever. GU, again, return to those highs, give us a short opportunity. So here's the thing. If the DXY is ready to turn around, just for food for thought, if the DXY is looking to make a move along from here, rhetorically speaking, do you think that we were going to get this move on GU short? It's not going to happen, is it? So it looks like GU, if the DXY moves to the upside from where its current position is, I know my position today could well be a snap and a type of retest position, as opposed to waiting for price coming up to these highs. Because if you see, EU is potentially ready for a short, but GU is completely in the middle of nowhere, and the DXY is in an area where we would expect price to push to the upside from. So it's one of those. Continue to monitor DXY, continue to monitor your crosspair, continue to manage your risk, and just wait for your setup that you like to trade. You can finally break up, pull back. I don't mind taking the long shorts, definitely not. And then finally, UJ break up, pull back, and I'll look for the long continuation and accept that, okay, maybe the range is over and we are now looking to trend up to the upside. So, team, thank you all for joining. I will post this on YouTube for you to rewatch if you feel the need to do so. Boris, I thank you personally for joining pretty much
Thank,
the every time, my man. So I appreciate your attendance, Boris in
thank you.
particular. Frank and the other guests, appreciate you guys for joining. Have a good trading day. Take care.